The United States has an abundance of one thing: serial killers. There are more serial killers in the United States than any other country, according to a study conducted by Dr. Mike Iamont, a forensic psychology professor at Radford University. There are at least 25 to 50 serial killers hunting their human prey right now. With that being said, Deranged brings you our first installment of The United States of Serial Killers. Keep watching as we bring you the who's who of serial killers state by state. Let's get started. We start our tour in the Sunshine State. Florida, located in the southeastern USA, is renowned for its sun-soaked beaches, vibrant culture, and diverse ecosystems. Florida was also the hunting ground for some of America's most infamous serial killers. People nicknamed him the Gainesville Ripper, and he purportedly served as the inspiration for the horror movie Scream. In 1990, Danny Rowling stabbed, sliced, mutilated, raped, and decapitated 4 University of Florida students and 1 student from Santa Fe in their apartment with a K-bar knife. Another incident for which he was later found guilty was the 1989 murder of a family of 3 in Shreveport, Louisiana. Rowling was later apprehended in conjunction with a botched grocery store robbery and pled guilty to the grisly murders during jury selection in 1994. Rowling was executed by lethal injection on October 25, 2006. Our next killer needs no introduction. Hollywood even capitalized on the buzz around her vicious crimes. Nicknamed Monster, if you know your true crime, you've heard of Aileen Wong. Aileen committed the first in her string of murders in November of 1989. The man she killed, Richard Mallory, was a convicted sex offender. Warnos says he attacked and raped her, leaving her no option but to protect herself. She shot him with her favorite .22 caliber pistol. His car was found by a deputy sheriff 2 days later, and his body in the woods nearby. Warnos went on to kill 6 more men. Mallory's murder is the only murder out of the 7 Aileen ever faced a trial for. She entered a plea of no contest for the remaining killings.
I made peace with my Lord, and I have asked forgiveness. I am sorry that my acts of self-defense ended up in court like this, but I take full responsibility for my actions.
It was enough to get her sentenced to death in 1992.
I sentence you in case number 91-463 to death for the murder of Troy Burris. Case number 91-304, I sentence you to death for the murder of Charles Humphreys. Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number, I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Thank you. And probably see, I'll be up in heaven while y'all are rotting in hell.
After spending 10 years on death row at the Florida State Prison, Aileen was put to death on October 9, 2002. In and around Tampa, Florida, Bobby Joe Long abducted, raped, and killed at least 10 women between March and November 1984. He used intricate rope collars to cause his victims excruciating suffering. Long had sexually assaulted at least 50 victims throughout Florida before the 1984 murders. He gained the moniker Classified Ad Rapist after preying on women who advertised goods for sale in their local newspapers. He was accused of these assaults, but because he was never found guilty and was free to kill several more women, he was caught years later when a woman whom he had kidnapped escaped and went to the police. He confessed to 8 murders and was sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection on May 23, 2019. Otis Toole, or the Jacksonville Cannibal, was active for 23 years between 1961 and 1983. Born in Jacksonville, Florida in 1947, Toole had an IQ of 75 and was known to suffer from acute epilepsy, which left him prone to violent seizures. In his youth, he developed a penchant for arson and reportedly achieved sexual arousal from live flames, a fiery habit he carried into adulthood. During his crimes, he was known to commit acts of cannibalism, setting his victims alight and even running them over with his car. Toole's crimes would escalate when he met Henry Lee Lucas.
And then by me meeting Otis too, that didn't help so good because me and him started running around killing together too.
Toole claims to have committed at least 108 murders with his lover
Picked
Lucas.
up lots of hitchhikers and all, Henry mostly killed all the women, himself, Some of them would be shot in the head and in the chest, and some of them would be choked to death, and some of them would be beat in the head with a tire tool.
DNA evidence linked the two to multiple murders nationwide, and Toole was eventually convicted of 6. Toole was sentenced to death but was later commuted to life in prison. Before his death, he confessed to the kidnapping and murder of John Walsh's son, Adam, Walsh would later go on to create and host America's Most Wanted in an effort to capture fugitives and prevent future tragedies. Toole died of cirrhosis at the Florida State Prison on September 15, 1996. Our next two killers include most likely the most prolific in U.S. history and arguably one of the most infamous. Between 1970 and 2005, Samuel Little allegedly killed 93 people, according to his own confession.
I grabbed my legs and pulled her to the water. That's the only one that I ever killed by job.
If true, this means he killed more people than Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, and Ted Bundy combined. He was convicted of 3 murders in California, committed from 1987 to 1989, and was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole.
This conviction was brought on by lies, and liars coached by liars.
In 2018, Little confessed to 90 murders across 14 states, including Florida, between 1970 and 2005. Authorities have confirmed Little as a murder suspect in 60 cases from as early as 1981 and are working to match the remaining confessions to known murders or suspicious deaths.
Did she fight you?
Yeah, she was wrestling, banging around in that.
Yeah.
Because she thought she had a trick.
You know, the man the FBI calls the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history died yesterday in California. 80-year-old Samuel Little was serving 3 consecutive sentences of life without parole.
Little died on December 30th, 2020, in a Los Angeles County area hospital. Although not from Florida, our next killer used the state as his own personal killing fields. Ted Bundy is one of the most notorious serial killers in United States history. Bundy described himself as the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. His crimes certainly prove that statement true. In just 4 years between 1974 and 1978, Ted Bundy raped and murdered some 30 women across 7 states, before engaging in necrophilia with many of their corpses. He was subsequently convicted of only 3 murders, but some suspect that he could have killed up to 100 people. Bundy was on death row in Florida for 9 years, following his death sentence in early 1980.
A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of 2 co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida.
Although his initial execution date was set for March 4, 1986, it was postponed several times after courts issued stays based on minor technicalities with his murder trials, as well as last-minute confessions to further murders to try to buy more time. Bundy's last request for review was denied in 1988, and within hours a final execution date was set.
I deserve certainly the most extreme punishment society has, and I think society deserves to be protected from me and from others like me, that's for sure.
One of the more bizarre chapters in recent American criminal history has come to an end. The end for Ted Bundy, a 42-year-old killer who left a trail of at least 20 murders from one end of the country to the other, came in the electric chair of Florida State Prison.
On January 24, 1989, he was executed by electric chair at Florida State Prison. Outside the prison, crowds cheered Bundy's death and set off fireworks. Per his request, Bundy was cremated. His ashes were spread in Washington State's Cascade Mountains, the same place where he dumped many of his victims. Whether you stay in the sunny state or just visiting, beware, there are serial killers everywhere. Hit the subscription button and leave us a comment on which state you would like to see next.